Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see
We were
that.
trying to figure out how to do all of it with this. Like, we had a moment of we're in the middle of Budapest and like, how do I get the camera over the thing with the this and the. So it took a
Sorry.
second. I like your poster.
No, thank you.
Nice.
So,
How did you choose the poster? I'm always curious, right? To pick.
yeah. So I think like it was very weird because when we started doing the film, it was clearly about the team and the experience of being in the team. And for me, like it was never about that. It was never about the sport element is very important in the film, but it's not about that. Even being refugees themselves, it was very important and big part, but wasn't about that at all. I think for me, what I really wanted to like people take away from the film is what after, what's gonna happen to these people after this experience. Not just like what you've seen in the film, but what we left behind. And for me, Wael was like the meaning of this. So when we didn't know that Wael is not going to make it to the team when we started filming with him, and the moment when we realize like he has a different path in this film, I think for me it was like now his role and his personality and his dream and what he's fighting for has become more important to me, and he is the representation of like all these 5 athletes or 4 athletes in the film, all these 29 who were in the team, like all the other refugees. So clearly for me, it's about what the legacy of this team will carry, the dreams, how many people they will inspire, how many people will look at them and see themselves in them more than, like the big legacy and like shiny, being in the platform of the Olympics and all of this.
Yeah, right.
So for me, it
It's
was
not.
clearly like it's always back to Wael. Started with Wael as it's in the film. We end with Wael as it is in the film. And this is what beyond you could see in the film itself.
I was always very, very moved by this. When I started to meet with different people who are refugees, and then somebody talked about this, it's kind of this one, it's this sea of humanity, right, that moves in the world in a very different way. And it's a population. It's a people. And it's this very there, it's hard to really explain the thing that bonds people in a country to say we are all from this country, or we are all this race, or we are all this faith, right? Is something very bonding for different people. What brings displaced people together is so different and so extraordinary and such an unusual and intense and very different thing that has brought forward their humanity and the struggle and the life force and the understanding of the darkest aspects of being human and the most beautiful in the way that you pull through together, that it is this family. It is really a family. It is a people, a refugee population, a displaced population. I think it's displaced over 110 million people now in our world. 110 million people who are the people in the world that understand what it is to be forced from their homeland and to live displaced, and have that in common, and have all the reasons that they were displaced in common. So what you show and what you represent in this. So I was very moved when then I realized there was a refugee Olympic team, because to me it is a country in many ways, right? It is this world.
Exactly. It's more than a country itself, like it's humanity. It's how we like it was amazing to be just in that space and like get to know and meet these people, the people who people will see in the film, but other people as well behind the scenes. Because I think we all come from different countries, we speak different languages, and sometimes we have to speak, like signs sometimes, we don't even like speak the same things. Every one of us had to leave for different reason. Every one of us had to leave behind different things, and every one of us like looking for different goals and dreams. But I myself, I was so surprised how much we have in common. in so many like moments and in so many like reactions and in so many ways of dealing with bad news or good news on or understanding to the world. And I think, you know, like I always feel like there's no one film or there's no 100 million films would explain what a refugee mean. But for me, you know, like this kind of shared experience, shared pain, shared hope, shared dreams, it was just like came so clearly from the first 2 minutes I sat with every one of them. And you know, like, and you know, always people ask me like, how did you get involved in this? And I remember like very early on in this project when I was doing the research, and after I met Angelina, who's in the film, and I was looking into different things, and then I've seen one interview you did with her in Rio, like in the 2016 Olympics, and your interview with her from a mother to a mother was just so like moving. And I mean, I know you at that time, and like, you know how much I admire you and I love everything you're doing. But like, I think it introduced me to you in different way as well when I saw you talking to her as a mother to another mother. And how much, you know, I've shared personally with my own kids as well, and the sacrifice I had to make in my life for them. I just realized, you know, like, I mean, like, we're all from different places, different things, but we can connect in 1 second without any, like, naturally, you know, like, so it was just so amazing to see that. And I remember the first time I emailed you, I was like, I'm doing this, like, I saw you, you know, Angelina, like, I was so excited because I think, you know, like, yeah, we all connected.
It's so easily, and you're right. And it's humanity, right? I saw your work before I met you, and I felt that I was watching a human being that I just had so much love for and admiration for. And I learned about you as a mother and as a person and as a thinker and as a and I think the more that we can remember that more today than ever, you know, that there's so much focus on how we're different and dividing people, right, and making people fear each other or think about a population in this way or that way, and we lose all sight of these are just borders. These are just made up constructs of how we're different or living in, but just moms and people and human beings trying to figure out our way through life, and those people like yourself who have experienced the extremes of, I always think of it, it's just the inhumanity you've just seen life in such an extreme way that most people on this earth will never know really what that feels like. That we can learn so much. You know, we can learn so much from you and from all refugees.
Yeah, but exactly. But I think, you know, when we look at the world today and how unfortunately everything is like, it's not going into a better place. And in such a circumstances like this, I think it's very important for us to reconnect again and make people more aware of, like, it was never easy, but it's not going to be easy. And of course, we hope all that the world is not going into like what we've witnessing today, more hate and more like wars and more issues around the world. But I think that's more like it's alarming, and people should really take it seriously. And when we talk about Syria, like, it's not just happened. When we talk about Ukraine, like Palestine, other countries around the world, like, this is happening as we speak today, and it became more urgent. And this, like, 110 million refugees, they are not just numbers, and the number is going far every single day. And that's, I think, really I would encourage people to take it more seriously, to look at their life, to look at other people's life. The only way for us to survive this madness is more sympathy and more love to each other. And
it's the people of the world, right? The people, not the governments, not the leadership. It's the people of the world that are the masses, we're the majority. And if we choose to stand for each other, if we come together, it sounds very, revolutionary and this like, idyllic, but it's true. We've seen this in history where the people rise up and decide that they want to live a certain way together. We've seen it within countries. We haven't seen it as much globally sometimes, but these are the times that we live in. And what I think has been so frightening, I worked so often with refugee populations. In the beginning, I thought it was awareness. People just need to be more aware. And if they're aware, there will be changes. If they're aware, we will all stand for the different human rights and we will all, right? And so you think that's what it is, but then you start to realize that you've brought awareness to something, or the whole world's aware of certain things. And then right in front of their eyes and with the whole world watching, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And a return to the Taliban and a return to an evacuation that is done in that way. And we've seen so many times where then you start to realize, well, what is it? What is it that is making people become more and more displaced? There's so much focus on X amount of people at a border or X amount of visas, but not this. The numbers are so beyond. The reality is so beyond. And really, why is it that conflicts are going on decade after decade with no resolution, with no accountability, with no ability to return, with no development post-conflict to really stabilize a country? Why? Who benefits from a lot of this? So
and even like not let it go to another country and repeat the same scenario and watch the same like things happening again. And like, as you just said, it's like, what did it really take? And awareness is something I think we all believe it's very important, but no, it's not enough. We need more actions. We need governments to take more responsibility. We want people to push on that. And at the same time, as big as it looks like, but I also really believe, like, as a mother, it starts from my home, from my relationship with my kids. What like things these kids inside our house should know, and they should care, because if we protect them too much in the way that they don't know what's going on outside, we're going, like, the world, like, more and more going to be complicated. And
it's so hard because I think a lot of people, right, children these days, there's so much, the world is in a very, we're sliding back on many things. We're seeing so much hostility, so much violence, so much climate change. Very hard to, I think even that we're going to learn at some point, the nervous systems of many of our children are just shot from but I think that, one of the things I've always found quite shocking is in history books, right? Especially even in America, the way we're taught. We're often taught that we're the best. We're taught about us. We're taught about our contributions, right? We're not, whether it's intentional or not, we're not raised to respect and admire the contributions of others in the world. That is not how we're raised. We're raised very much to believe we, and this happens in many countries, are kind of the center. And that mindset, I think, is the beginning of the divisions. It's the beginning of the disrespect. It's the beginning of the thinking of somebody as an other, because you're not being raised and you're not discussing other peoples of the world as they should be seen and treated and considered. And so I do hope that one of the positive sides of all of us being able to even do this is that more and more people in these next generations really discover each other, that the peoples of the world, past the conflicts, past the divisions, really discover each other. And it's one of the reasons I love your film.
I think, like, as much as I wanted to make this film about representation, and like I was going so much into like the first like kind of idea I had, like I felt all the time people deal with us as refugees, like we either like victims, or we are villains, or we are superheroes. Like there's no ordinary like choices, and we like no one look at us as equals. And even when people look at us as superheroes, there's like this kind of like Hollywood, you know, like story in their mind about how extraordinary we are, and the rest are not like this, you know, that's why we're special. And for me, I was like, the first thing I wanted to do, like, I really wanted this film to be, we are sitting with these athletes together, you know, equally. Like, we're learning about them, we're knowing them, we're getting to know them, even to get to know their trauma and their difficult choices in their life. Like, just as a friends, you know, like, no expectation, no stereotyping, nothing in this. And like, that was like my vision, you know, this is what driving me, like, this is what I want to make. This film is about representation, and the right true representation as much as I can. So when I made the film, and when I'm looking back now at all of this, I think there was a lot of, you know, how I was like, just like everything was like directly, you know, like toward them without any layers of anything, because I really wanted people to go this true experience. Just if you met them like in the bus station, you know, or if you get to know them because your kid and Angelina's kid go to the same school, or like, it's just like, you know, as normal as it could be. And then revealing like minute by minute more about what does it really mean and how far they come. This is one thing, but on the other hand as well, like from the filmmaking perspective, like this is really maybe a call to so many other like filmmakers and people. Like, we have a lot to do to contribute, and the fact that as refugees in this industry, like there's a lot of us. People maybe doesn't like see us, or maybe we're not visible in so many places, but we're in everywhere, in every department, in every like aspect of this work. And what we just really need is like a little bit of space. And I'm not like asking for this, because this is the specific and simple and basic right we have as a human being, you know, when we are in this new communities. But like in so many places, you know, like I became the award winning director or whatever, but there's so many like me. There's me, maybe even people like better than me in what they are doing. But what they really need is just this access. And I was lucky enough to get that, and to be really loved and supported by so many people in this film, by you, by Joanna, Joe, like so many people were in this film. But what I really feel like, it's really like the fight now is more about grabbing more people like in. Because we know them, we can identify them, we see them, but it's not, they're not there yet, they're not enough there yet. And you know me, with all this love, it was never easy, and I had to do a lot to be able to gain where I am today. But I know how many people, they are waiting for that like little door to be open, you know. And I think this film for me is a big call for everyone who can grab a hand of someone else and bring them in, because they deserve to be in.
I agree. And I would even say it's like you, the contribution as an artist, simply as an artist, not as a humanitarian, not even as a mother, as a creative person who's watched films and directs and things. I want to be, and as an audience member, I want to learn and experience art and creativity and storytelling from extraordinary minds. That's what I want. And that we're talking about a population that knows more about the extremes of human beings and experience and cultures that we don't know and experiences that we don't know. So for me, just as a creative, I think selfishly, I want to know the minds and the experiences and the art that comes from such an unusual and extraordinary population of people. So I think anybody who's in our business would not, it's not a nice thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. These are
what we need, really, like in this madness of this world. This is what we need.
And even as, by the way, just creatively, we need new voices. We need new art. We need new inspiration. We need, right? So even if somebody wasn't even looking at it in a way of something that is, right, it's as an art form, we need the voices of our time. And We need to understand about things we don't know, and we need many, many extraordinary voices. So I think you helping to open this door and continue to put others forward and continue to work, and hopefully we can work together to continue to support others who do this work and play with them and create with them.
No, I think this is really my responsibility now, because I've been there, I've been in a place where I wanted at some point to break my camera, because I felt like there's no point of this, and I've been in other places where I've felt how like making this films and this kind of things like makes other people life really changed. And like out of this, I feel like responsible for everyone else who I know. They are working and they are trying so hard to tell their story or to tell other people's stories. And I know for me, like, people like sees me as like, yeah, I broke through in that way, but it wasn't easy. And as I broke through, I feel more privileged and more able, to raise my voice and call for other people, call in our industry to let people really aware of this, but also to call out for other refugees and other people who feel like they want to break their camera today, but I just want to tell them, like, don't do it. Just be patient, just keep trying. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying that always it's going to be as we want it to be, but just keep trying. This is the only way for us to be like out and to be surviving this difficulties. So yeah, I hope to see much more films and much more people like, yeah, with a new perspective, with like something we can't understand even ourselves, but we hope to understand through other people, like stories and eyes.
Absolutely. And to your point, it's not just stories about whether like being a refugee or a victim or a superhero. As you said, when people say, I don't love the expression when they say survivors, because I think, well, part of that is that everybody's still surviving there's no end to it. Some people, I think, say that because it makes them feel better that somebody's in their mind survived, but it's the beginning of a life of caring and still so much. But yes, the stories of culture, the stories of love, the stories of family, all of it. I look forward to, it's an exciting thing to think about, all that can come creatively. And yeah, and I know there's so much, I don't know if you want to even mention it or talk about it, but just so much happening in Syria at the moment still, and many people, because of other conflicts in the world, are not aware of all that's happening, and the bombing even today.
Exactly. Like, I mean, people look at For Summer now, like it's been 5 years since the film was out, and people telling me like, oh, like we're so glad you survived. We're glad it's over. It's like no, it's not over. Like literally as we speak today, it's been now 13 years since the Syrian revolution started, which was like the best moment of our life. But everything happened after, and all the violence, all the killing, all these war crimes that I've witnessed myself and other people is still happening literally as we speak. And like since like 3rd of October this year, there's a new wave of attacks on Idlib, the last remaining area out of the regime control, where there's like 4 million Syrian displaced people internally who are living there. And these people, like some of them I know, they were with us in the hospital when we were in Aleppo. And these people still being threatened to be killed or displaced again and again and again. So it's not over. Assad is invited this month to be in COP28 to talk about, protecting Earth and the environment. And like, politically, it's normalization, trying to like just wipe everything happened is like never was. And as like all the Syrian refugees around the world, I think we feel like really threatened, not just because like we can't go home today, just because we feel like everything we've witnessed ourselves, it's like never happened, and some countries are totally okay to just forget about this and move on. So it's a lot going on.
It is.
But
I think that is the most disheartening thing. I think or I thought, at least even 20 years ago when I started to work internationally, that there was this, in my head, some weird idea of good guys, some idea of those, whether it be certain countries or certain peoples. Maybe it was this holdover from World War II and this thought that this was like, so that the lines were clearer and that there was going to be these human rights goals laid out and that there would be things stood up for, and that if these things weren't done, there would be pushback. And these were and I really thought that's what it was. I even thought that's what the United Nations was. I thought, okay, there's some lines in the sand, there's some understanding, and we're going to grow and fight for improvements in these areas. And to watch and understand more and more how it's just simply, that's not what it is. That's not the world. The world is not, these are human rights. It is, these are human rights sometimes for these people, maybe sometimes for these people, never for these people. Yeah. It's food aid, 6% for these people, 50% for these people. It's justice for these people, but not these people. Accountability for this crime, but not that crime if there's business interest. And this is truly the ugly state of so much of the world that we are just becoming more and more aware of for just about every, I mean, I don't know any countries that are clean of it and willing to hold a line really consistently and on behalf of human rights and laws. And it's really disheartening. It's really upsetting.
I know I'm not maybe the first person to tell you this, but like as someone who witnessed like war crimes in my own eyes, and I've seen governments and politicians and decision makers, like making statements and talking about things and meeting them face to face, and they tell us something and then we walk away and that's it, like that was another file or a meeting they have, like through 57 meetings they have in that day, and nothing changed and nothing different. So I've lost hope in governments and in policy and in decision makers like for a long time. And at the same time, I'm still holding on a lot on keep my hope on people, because I think, that's my only way to survive and to keep able, like to do what I'm doing and find meaning of my life. But also I think what I found out recently, like more, and I'm still exploring this, it's not like even a ready idea for me or like belief, but like I start to realize that maybe what is really wrong is the system itself, the entire system, like it's not about this government or that government. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why I can't see you. Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't like, it's not a belief yet, but it's something like it's the entire system which is wrong. And again, it's not about like there's good people and there's bad people. Like the same good people, they can be bad in different conversation.
Sometimes that can be worse because there's a presenting as something, and so it's even more it can be more upsetting to put your faith in, or for someone to position themselves as the leader in human rights or a democracy or a good guy, when then they won't hold the line, and they are and they could fight and they don't fight. I think you're right. I mean, the system is very, I think in my mind, a lot of us are raised with this idea that colonialism was this thing that happened, right? And that somehow it ended, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And it didn't, and the attitudes and the control and the control abuse of developing countries and other countries is maybe worse than ever in the grab for resources and and the dishonesty and the willingness to make deals with others to, you know, the business interests, even the United Nations and the way it's set up and how it's set up and who has the final veto power.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. I think we just didn't, it was just presented so much as something else, and it's still, I still think I'm happy it's there for some emergency relief, but beyond that, and even that emergency relief can be vetoed by a country with business interests or any other interests.
Or by the country who is
bombing. Or by the country that's bombing the country, right? That the fact that you actually have, I mean, so at what point, and I think, you know, there's little point in even shouting about it or discussing the negative aspects of so many things, because there isn't another yet. There isn't this like exactly, but I'm like you. I believe that the answer is in the people, the masses of people. And in the history, we've always seen that sometimes whatever's broken, it has to completely break and this other is born. And it often is the peoples of the world that can no longer live a certain way. And there has to be a reset. There has to be a new way forward. And it has to be built from the people who want to live in peace with their families safely and have a future for their children. So that we have a faith in the same. Yeah.
That's why we are here today.
Yes.
I'm aware of the time, so I don't know, you have to leave maybe?
I probably soon, but you know.
Can I ask you one question?
Always, anything.
Okay, so when you did watch the last version of We Dare to Dream, or maybe before this, but why did you decide to join the team of We Dare to Dream?
That's a nice question. I think, as I mentioned before, I've never been able to express what I feel when I've traveled the world and met people around the world and seen this humanity and this togetherness, this understanding of this shared humanity, and that of people, and as you mentioned, not in some way where it's superheroes or something perfect or victims, just real people, just being extraordinary because they're just human and trying and fighting and connected and open and honest. And so when I saw it, I felt that it was the first time I really saw, in many ways, a different representation of a refugee. And I felt close to it. I felt like friends, like you are friends. I felt that way. And I left it feeling like all these people could be my friends. These are people I've come to know a little bit, I now root for. And in this very, there's just something so natural about it and with the way you've done it that I think it will make people learn that about, and hopefully walk away feeling that's the potential of the world we can live in. That's the way we can learn about it, connect with each other. This is the way it can be. This is how we can be. So it gave me hope, which I don't often say because it sounds a little cliche. Something gives me hope and it gives you but this one gave me hope, and it made me happy.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, for me, like one of my friends she was with us in Aleppo, and I invited her to watch like an early cut of this film. And I was like, this is very uplifting film. It's very like hopeful. It's amazing. Like, it's just so like this. And she walked out like crying,
Well, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, I cried, but I thought I am very emotional. And she was like, no, it's amazing, but still very emotional. And the hope element in this film is just like, yeah, you can feel it and you can like live it with them. And it's just amazing because, yeah, I think that's what we really need in our lives now.
Well, and I think what it is that you see like real hope, because there's a difference of something that's like beyond and it's just a fantasy of dream. But there's the other that's like just being in the day, just being your best, just fighting for something, just representing yourself, knowing yourself, pushing through and not giving up or feeling like giving up, but just being.
Yeah, amazing. You know, like this is what really always like stressed me out as someone who's been through a lot. Like when people say like, you can do it, you know, this cliche of like a couple of lines
Right.
about like, don't give
Right.
up, just keep going, just you can do it, you can make it. Like it's like just sometimes it's like, no, it's okay to say we can't do it, or like we're
No,
really tired, or we're not we're not up for this, like today, or maybe this week, or maybe this year, I don't know. But like, yeah, I think what I've learned through this was like this real experience of creating hope, living on hope, and yeah, giving up sometimes. It's fine.
and I think because it's you know, you can still be tired and not have the fight in you every day, but you haven't become dark. You haven't
Yes.
become right. That is a victory. That's maybe the biggest victory. You know, this idea that it's supposed to look a certain way. The victory is to still get up in the morning and not hate and blame your fellow man for all that you've suffered, right? The biggest victory is to get up and still be able to smile with your children and keep living. And what is it to live? And that's maybe something I also learned when I would be very young and meeting refugee families and meeting people who have experienced more than I could ever imagine or anybody I knew had ever experienced. And they had more of a sense of life and they were more present and felt more honest, just as, and that's to me, I think why we're all, it's got to be why we're all here, right? We're all here to be very connected to each other and human and try to really understand what that is, not to gain things and awards and, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So I look forward to finding new things to work on and
We will.
yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there. I really wish I wasn't filming. I could pop over, but I can't wait to
Anyways,
see pictures
you
and
are
videos.
very much here, and
Right.
yeah, and
And
you
we'll
also
hopefully
are.
we'll screen also New York and LA and just
Yes,
continue to I'm around and
sure. No, and thank you for everything
of course, of
for
course. Thanks for
years.
having me be a part of this. This is a special one to be a part of.
Thank you.